This episode of the OnlyKings podcast is brought to you by OrganicPricedBooks.com. Guys, there's not been a better time to get into collecting comics, and OrganicPricedBooks.com has multiple formats such as the Omnibus, Deluxe hardcover, and trade paperbacks at huge discounts, such as The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, originally at $125, marked down to $80. Use my discount code NOAH, N-O-A-H, at checkout for an additional discount on top of what you're already getting, which can range from anywhere between 25 to 42% off. Again, OrganicPricedBooks.com, discount code NOAH, N-O-A-H, for an additional discount. Now back to the show. Hey, buddy.
What's up, man?
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Last time we had you over there.
I did.
And
I was over there.
For a little bit of long-term listeners, Christy's on the other side of the desk now.
Yes.
She's now the audience. Thanks for being part of my vacation.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
very beginning of my vacation.
Yeah.
So cheers.
Cheers, my guy.
Big cheers. You know, we're mentioning earlier, well, her phone's always dying. That's actually a thing with Apple. Like, they proved that now. Every time they send a software update, it depletes your battery. They purposely, like, that's what they do. It's like death by 1,000 cuts, is they make the phone.
Well, and did you know now in the new phones, they don't even give you a fucking charger?
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking scam.
I have that over there.
Yeah.
So it's the it's not Thunderbolt. It's or is it Thunderbolt?
I don't know.
The new one. So the new one, because this one is whatever she's got is the Lightning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the new one's called Thunderbolt.
Okay.
And it only works with the brand new Macs.
Just what a
Yeah.
scam.
Yeah, it only works with the
such
brand new
bullshit.
Macs, because the new Macs, that's their charging port.
Okay.
Is the Thunderbolt. But yeah, so every time they update or they send out an update for your phone, it's like improving security or like they're protecting your privacy or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
It's overclocking your phone, so it makes the battery deplete more and more and more and more and more.
Like I said, it's just a scam. Period. And we buy into it. So I mean, who's at fault here? Us or them?
Well, them. No, fuck them. They're the ones with the billions of dollars. Well, because like the reason why, because I sat down one week and I was like, look, I'm spending too much money on these fucking phones. Why are you, like, whether you're doing it over months or you're doing it in one bid, right? $1,200, $1,000
Yeah.
is way too much for a shiny brick.
Absolutely.
It's way too much.
For sure.
But they got me with the fucking iCloud. All my shit's there. Like, all my pictures, my contacts, my everything.
But I
there.
also feel like iCloud is kind of a scam because there's like, did you ever see the episode of The Kardashians where someone hacked the iCloud in Kris Jenner's closet and like has like footage of her naked? Like, that's like just like, it's just a scam. It's all a scam.
I kind of feel bad for laughing now, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So they hacked an iCloud.
Like her cameras in her home were connected to her iCloud, and someone hacked into it and had footage of her naked in her closet. So it's like, yeah, all our shit's backed up to the cloud, but someone, I mean, I have thousands of nudes on my phone probably. Like, could you imagine someone hacking that? I would be mortified.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have thousands of nudes on my phone, but I definitely have some really fucked up memes, and I'd be probably put on a couple watch lists. So
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of feel that.
For sure.
So her whole shit was hooked up into one synchronized system, and someone hacked into it.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, yeah, that sucks. Like, no one should have their privacy invaded like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's
For
fucked
sure.
up. On the other hand, she has so much fucking money, and you can pay the extra, probably what, $15, $20 a month to protect it.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
fuck you,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
That whole family's fucking bananas, though. Like,
Listen, if my sister needs to put out a sex tape to make me a billionaire, girl, I'm supporting you 100%.
that is crazy, though. Like, if you break down the Kardashians, why are they famous? You know? Like, anyone besides Kim. It's like, we get why Kim's famous, why she became famous.
For sure. I just feel like if you build upon the mistake that you made and you can be a millionaire, I mean, I ain't hating on you for it,
Dude, if we could turn mistakes into millions, I wouldn't need
Absolutely.
anything. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Well, because like she made the sex tape with
Ray J.
with Ray J, and then the mom, what's the mom's name? Chris.
Yeah.
Chris turns her into, like, that's where I'm conflicted. I think the most is like, I get how important money is.
Yeah.
And they did it damn well, you know. But she turned her daughters into products. And I don't know if I agree with that on principle. Because
on principle, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with it. Yeah, like, for sure.
Because it's like, I mean, Apple. I mean, honestly, Apple's a good example. Like, Apple is an inferior phone for most parts, except for the camera. They got a pretty sexy camera, but their phone is mostly inferior to the top Androids. But people buy Apple because it's Apple, because it's sleek, because it's sexy, it's cool. So, granted, I don't use makeup products. I don't do any of that. But I would imagine that a lot of people buy the Kardashian lines of, I'm sure there's like makeup and like hair stuff, and I'm sure there's sex toys at this point.
Well, like you kind of like got to look at it like they are like icons and they're idols for some people, and they built an empire off of a mistake, and so it's almost like you did turn maybe your daughters into products.
Well, they
but like
didn't.
how no, Kris Jenner for sure did.
Yeah,
but it's like, can you really hate on it? Like, can you be mad about it? You know what I mean?
No, I can be curious. I'm just curious about like where did Kris Jenner cross that moral line where it's like, I'm gonna sexualize the fuck out of my daughters, right? But we're gonna make oogles of money and are like because Kim has kids with Kanye, right?
Yeah.
Right. That like their grandkids will never have to worry about money. It's generational.
I feel like anyone in that family will never have to worry about money.
Well, right,
ever.
but like, generations down will never have to worry
sure.
about money, which is ridiculous to think about. Like for instance, Jeff Bezos. I saw a recent estimate that came out, and it was every minute he makes 3 times the national average for an American.
And doesn't that kind of put things into perspective? Like, I don't know who said, I think it was AOC maybe said, like, you don't become a billionaire, we allow you to be a billionaire. Like, and for you to be allowed to have that much money in America while other people are suffering is literally insane.
So I agree.
However, if you work hard for that shit and you earned it,
which Bezos
I have no
did.
hate on it. Yeah,
He
absolutely.
started out selling books,
right?
You know, which is insane. I think because then you get into the question of should there be billionaires?
Right.
Should there be? Should there be?
I just feel like there should be a comfortable amount of income for every American in the greatest country in the world.
Right.
The U.S.
Right.
But to have billions, over billions and billions of dollars, I think is wild. That's insane.
Yeah, I was listening to a Joe Rogan episode, and they broke down like some of his assets. His yacht is worth $250 million, I think. His yacht's $250 million. He has a full-fledged staff that live on the yacht.
Right.
He has a full staff that he employs. And then his yacht has a support yacht that's attached to it that like goes out and like brings it fuel, brings it supplies.
Yeah.
So that yacht never fucks up. It's like a little society.
And see, so doesn't that put things into perspective? Like last year, there was millions of people on unemployment, myself included. I was laid off from work.
Right.
Why does this man get to float on a fucking yacht?
Yeah.
While there's people struggling to feed their kids.
Yeah.
Like there's people without work that are worrying about how they're going to pay their rent.
Right.
So yeah, you asked that question again. Should there be billionaires? I feel like if you work hard and you earn that money, for sure. But how much is Jeff Bezos worth? Like $500 billion fucking dollars? Like that is seriously insane.
Yeah, it is. And like, wait, quick sidebar. Are you like overly hot right now, by chance?
I'm like a little hot, but I think it might be the vodka too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Christy, do you mind turning off the fan real quick? Just press the power button. Yeah, there's a lot of buttons on there, and it annoys me too. That's better. That's a lot more clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think because you bring up a good point. Coronavirus happens, the pandemic happens, and everything shuts down. People are out of work. People are losing their, they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their houses. Families going under. That's horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm not discrediting that. But because of the product that Jeff Bezos supplied, that was almost because nobody was delivering anymore. So that's like, and I'm not necessarily advocating for him, but it's kind of like the writing's on the wall as to why his service makes so much money, right? And that's why you see so many companies like Amazon, Target, Walmart, Target, Costco, God knows who else, right?
Yeah.
They have these services where it's like you come to them and they give you your groceries. They'll deliver your groceries.
Right.
DoorDash kicked up like crazy. Uber Eats kicked up like crazy. So all that makes sense enough to me, but I would be okay with the government stepping in and saying, look, we're going to kind of put a soft cap on how much money one person can hold, right? I'd be okay with that if I trusted the government. Because the reason why I'm not necessarily okay with that is they're going to say, okay, you know what? You cannot be worth more than $100 billion, which is a stupid amount of money.
That's still astronomical. Yeah.
Astronomical amount of money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you could fill this condo with $100 billion. You
Yeah.
know? So, like, I'd be okay with that if it wasn't coming from a government that has this horrible track record, or a beautiful track record, however you want to look at it, of just fucking over other societies, right? And then doing horrible things to our own country.
Right.
Right. I think it for me personally, it just boils down to like trust. Like, I don't really trust them to like be able to have that power and they'll like let it go. You know what I mean? Like with this whole coronavirus incident, I was watching it happen like in the heat of it. And I was like, well, yeah, no, I get it. Like, we kind of need to lock down for a little bit, maybe not for a full year like we have been. And like some.
How did you feel? Like, I remember, because I live alone. And so I remember when the pandemic first hit America, like I remember hearing about it in China, and we're like, oh, there's this crazy virus going around.
Right.
And then I remember it hit America, and like living alone, like made me so scared.
Yeah.
And so I remember like Christy being there and my friend Lick, like they would come over. Did you ever have like a sense of like extreme fear? It might just be me.
No,
no. You know, living alone, you get in your head and you know what I mean?
Funny thing. So we watched, the OnlyKings had a new trailer today. So
check it out.
Yeah. So we watched the trailer. And there's a little clip where the girl, her name is Annalise. She is a family psychiatrist. And she actually said, like, it's okay to have anxiety because of a pandemic.
Yeah.
That came apart because we were talking about how I was feeling during the pandemic. And so, yeah, I totally did. So, like, my little timeline kind of, like, can't go into too much detail, kind of what we talked about beforehand.
Yeah, right.
But so when the COVID stuff started happening, I was actually overseas. Like, I wasn't here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I wasn't here. So I'm overseas and I'm in Europe, and we're hearing about all this craziness go down, and it's like, and same thing like you just said, it's a crazy virus. It's over there. It's gonna, and the way I've kind of rationalized it now is like, that's kind of like the privilege of the West, right? It's like we have built ourselves up, and we've like, whether it's mentally or like fiscally and physically,
right,
to be such a strong country.
Yeah.
That we're like, those problems suck and we'll help you out, but we'll be okay. Don't worry. Like, we got you, right? We're the strong base. And then it eventually hit us and all this crap happened. But I remember looking at it and all the memes were coming out about the beer virus.
Right.
And like, I still think it's hilarious that Corona stock dropped. Like the distributor of Corona beer dropped. I thought that was hilarious. So all this craziness is going down, and I'm just kind of watching it like, this sounds like something different. This sounds like it could be like a thing. And so I fly out of Europe back to the States, and 2 days later, former President Trump puts in the Europe ban on travel. And I was like, oh, wow, this could be something. Like, that was almost me. 2 days. If I had waited 2 days, I'd be stuck in Europe. Like, fuck, man. And then, like, I'm not even, like, an NBA fan, but, like, the NBA canceled their season. And I was like, oh, no. Like, what is this going to be?
And I also remember, like, when it first hit, you know, and I feel like, I don't know if you remember this, Chrissy, but I feel like our state was one of the last to, like, get hit by COVID. And they're like, no one wants to live in New Mexico. Even COVID doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's also just because, like, New Mexico's so, like, it's not very densely populated.
Yeah.
So.
And so I just think when it really hit and, like, it hit us, it was really fucking scary.
Yeah.
And, you know, now, you know, like, things are kind of getting back to normal. But there was just, like, last year, like, such a huge sense of, like, insecurity and uncertainty. Like, it was scary. And then when you live alone, I have a fucking cat. So it's like me and my fucking cat were just there, like, you know, chilling, you know. So it was a wild time last year for sure.
Well, no, it was scary. And, like, so I end up getting quarantined where I was at for March all the way through July. Then I came back home, like, home to New Mexico. And so where I was actually in southwestern Texas. And Texas kind of, like, as we see with them opening up, they were some of the first to open up.
Yeah.
They were some of the last to close down completely.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm watching everything that's going on around me, and then because it was started out like, hey, you should really wash your hands, guys. And then it was like, maybe you should wear a mask. And then it was like, no, you're gonna wear a mask. And then it was no more gym, no more movies. And I was like, whoa, like, what's going on? And
it for sure went from, like, 0 to 100 in, like, a way that I don't think any of us ever expected.
Right. And I'm talking to all my buddies here in New Mexico, and exactly, New Mexico just flipped. They were like, no mask, all mask, everything's closed.
Yeah.
Like that. There's no gradual, like, almost like dipping your toes into the pool.
Yeah.
And so I'm quarantined, and I'm like, all right, well, this sucks, but at least I'm not sick, I guess. So let's try and make the best of this. And I remember like sitting through everything that was happening. I'm like everybody else in this country. I'm watching, like, the coronavirus tracker. You know, I'm watching the news like crazy and just filling my brain with all this crap. And then what was the final straw for me was the George Floyd incident that happened. So George Floyd gets murdered, and then all the riots happen. All of like there was you could cut the tension with a knife right in this country. And then I'm watching all this, and I deleted all my social media. And I was like, I'm done. I can't do it. You're freaking me out. Like, I can't do it.
And, you know, that was, like, when George Floyd got murdered, I think that was, in our country at least, I think that was, like, 2 or 3 months into the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I remember I hadn't seen my mom in 3 months. She is a medical supervisor of a nursing home in Farmington.
Oh, wow.
And so COVID really hit her nursing home really hard.
Right.
I think they lost, I don't even know how many of those people died at her nursing home.
Right.
But I remember things kind of started opening up little by little. And so her and I went to Durango, Colorado, and we got pedicures. And it was right after George Floyd had just gotten murdered, and people were marching in the streets. And it was amazing to see. But at the same time, we're like, are we not still worried about this pandemic? And none of us are wearing masks. You know, but at the same time, I still respected every person that was in a completely different state marching for, you know, something that mattered.
No, I agree.
And so it was amazing to see that, but it was still just uncertain. Everything was still so uncertain at that time.
Well, so I think the easiest way to put it, like with the way our country handled it, was I think pre-COVID, the assumption, the unspoken assumption was, you know what, things can go haywire. Our politicians can be numbskulls, but our system is built to where no matter what happens, we'll be okay. Like, don't worry about it. We'll be okay. And then COVID happened, and they consistently dropped the ball so many times that it was like, hey, this isn't going to be okay if you guys don't get your shit together, right? If you don't get if you don't get the act together, we could really be fucked here. And honestly, I think half the reason we didn't just go down a whole, like, because there's a lot of worse paths we could have gone down, like economically alone, right? And I think
I feel like we went down it.
we went down a really horrible path for sure, but it could be so much worse.
Yeah.
And I think a part of the reason why it didn't is because of the systems and because of just how much money is still in this country, right? Granted, it's been, especially after COVID, it's more centralized, but we're nowhere near communist Russia, right? And we're nowhere near the way North Korea is. Thank God, right? And we very well could have been.
However, I feel like we were well on the track.
We were for sure. And again, so I'm watching all this happen even before George Floyd ended up getting murdered, and I'm thinking like, yeah, we might have to lock down for a bit. It makes sense that whatever's essential to you is going to get closed down. That makes sense. But I don't know if I trust these people to give that power up and say, hey, we're done, COVID, and it's slowly happening. And I think what the beauty of America is that on both sides, right, on right and left, states had enough of it. And they're like, no, fuck you. Like, we're opening up.
Yeah.
Like, we're bleeding, you know? And now, granted, it's the minority, and the majority of the states stayed closed until, like, the federal government put out mandates. But, like, a lot of states were like, we can't do this anymore.
I just feel, I know a lot of people, in New Mexico especially, really dislike our governor. And there's things that I can understand why, and myself even,
Yeah.
But it's like, you have to be a humanitarian and you have to protect the people. And when does humanitarianism come over, money?
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be a debate.
I agree.
Like the people's health matter. Like, if we have to shut the fuck down and people are living, parents can take care of their kids. My grandma's not dead. Like when, I just feel like that matters more than the economy. And I might sound like a fucking moron for that.
No,
but
dude, that's your opinion.
I just feel like humanitarianism and people being alive and living is more important than
so I agree with
any
you.
capitalism or money or anything.
Yeah, so I agree with you to a point. The way I see it is like they should have waited a little bit longer before locking down. They should have put the government, like, I'm not for socialism and I'm not for everyone getting the same thing and that sort of society.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do something like anticipating the unemployment system being overwhelmed, which it was.
Right.
If you're going to do something like put out stimulus checks, which they did 3 times, right? If you're
it was 2 with Trump and 1 with Biden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was 12, 6, and then 14, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to do stuff like that, have a plan. Have a solid plan in what you're going to do. Because there is no rational-minded individual that can look at how we handled COVID and say, you know what? So it started in March, let's just say 12 months that COVID really started happening, right? It was really hard and people were really suffering. For 12 months, who in this country is going to live off of 4,000 it amounted to?
Or the whole package?
The whole stimulus stuff that came out.
4,000, that's a far stretch. No, the first one was...
Because it was 1,200.
And then 6, so then 14.
And 14, so...
Is that
$3,200?
I majored in psychology, not math.
Holy fuck. So 12 plus 6 is 18. 18 plus 10 is 28 plus 4 is 32. $3,200.
Yeah, $3,200. Yeah.
Holy crap. Holy fuck. This is why I'm going to film school, bro. Like,
isn't that no? But you so you kind of condense things and you prioritize things and you're like, the greatest country in the world, that's all you gave us to survive?
No, exactly. So
when there's billionaires, like we just talked about,
exactly,
$500 billion, and that's all we got to survive. And I understand there is people, that don't want to work, and there is people that look for handouts, and I understand that, but $3,200, that's all we got in a fucking year of unemployment and people not having jobs.
No, so I agree. Make sure that I can open the door for the moderator when he shows up. Oh, he's here. Can you open the garage? Yeah. We're going to take a short commercial break.
Hi, David.
All right, we'll just start from here. Yes, it's a different guy this time. Okay, so no, I agree. Like there were a lot of people with a lot of money. No, very few people with a lot of money, while the majority were suffering. Like I agree with that. But I think the government. This is one of those big moments, right, where the government had to step in and be like, "Hey, listen, we got you guys. This is the plan. This is what we're gonna do." Like for instance, Andrew Yang, he had a beautiful idea with the UBI, and for people listening that don't really know, I've talked about it so many fucking times. I'm not gonna stop because it's such a real thing that we need. Basically, what his plan was, excuse me, was he was gonna do $1,000 a month, no questions asked, for every American 18 and above. But if you were receiving any welfare payments or if you're receiving anything that would like be in their qualifiers to either deduct away or surplus that $1,000, that's what would happen. So let's say you're getting unemployment already and you're getting $1,200 a month. Well, you could opt into the $1,000 or you could keep it $1,200. And in the same way, like let's say your unemployment was $800. You would get that $800 a month, but then you would also get a $200 freedom dividend on top of it.
Yeah.
And the way that he was going to fund it was awesome as well. So for every like Amazon purchase, Google search, any social media or major website conglomerate that was tracking your data and saving your data, you were going to get, well, they would tax it. It was called a value added tax. And they were going to take like pennies out of each thing, but there's so much of it that happens that, I mean, Prime Day just happened.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I ordered shit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a big ass book of energy drinks. Like, you know what I mean? So out of my Amazon transactions, of the money that I made or the money that I spent, he would tax a little bit out of that, a very minuscule amount, but there's so much of it happening. And he recognized so much of it was happening that it would fund the freedom dividend. And then on top of that, he would legalize marijuana. So I want to say a majority, but I know that a chunk of the taxes on federal marijuana would go towards funding it. And then the leftover budget that we would have from giving a presidential pardon to everyone with a nonviolent drug crime related to marijuana, they would immediately get freed from prison on 420, which is great, right? That's just great.
It's the irony of it all.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So they would get immediately federally pardoned on 420. So all that surplus from the budget goes into funding the freedom dividend, and then there you go. So he laid out a plan of a way to give Americans $1,000 a month. So and I actually had a little bit of hope with the Trump administration because when COVID started happening, they tapped into Andrew Yang and they asked him to come in and be an advisor on how to handle the financial side of this. But it's obvious they didn't fucking listen to the guy because it just crashed. Like, what the fuck, man?
And like I said, I didn't want to get heavy into
right,
politics.
right. But like,
It's just they're
well, that's what sucks. Before you start though, that's what sucks. Is like,
No, for
this
sure.
could be political, but I see a lot of this, like the coronavirus stuff.
Yeah.
I see that more as a social problem than I see a political, because you're really starting to fuck over your own populace.
I can kind of see that.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But you also do make it political in the sense that, you know, when COVID hit America, Trump called it a hoax, says it was fake, called it the China virus, and then, you know, of course there's, you know, some radical liberals that like you call it the China virus, like you're racist, you know,
you're a
which I can understand that. Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. But you can't call a new virus, a new thing that's hitting your country when you're the leader. You're not allowed to call that fake when people are dying.
Yeah.
And so it does, in a sense, make it political.
And I agree.
You know what I mean? And because there's the people who are on his side, his political side.
Yeah.
So it does, in the end, make it, you know, political.
Yeah, and it sucks.
In a sense.
And it sucks because, like, when he was, I forget the, can you look up the author of Rage? You don't have to record it or anything, but it's the author of Rage. Like, look up Rage Donald Trump book. So this guy that wrote this book, I really want to buy it at some point, but it's basically like a lot of transcripts of the interviews that he had, and it's climaxing in this big interview that Bob Woodward. Okay, so he was interviewing him, and he was like, he asked him that same thing. He goes, well, why did you write this off as a hoax, as the China virus, as, why did you downplay it so much? Like, why didn't you take it seriously? At least in the public eye, why didn't you take it seriously so that the American people could have some sort of faith in you?
Some security.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why? And his answer makes sense. But so his answer was, well, I didn't want to cause mass hysteria, and I wanted to do my best to mitigate panic. And I was like, okay. Well, you look at that answer, and I'm like, okay, like that makes sense, but you went about it the wrong way.
I feel like he did not mitigate panic at all. I feel like he made it more hysterical than it should have been because you didn't act in the first place.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
He didn't do it in the right way.
Right.
Like, that's such a good answer. If there was some missteps, but overall you could look and say, yeah, he didn't talk about it too much because they were trying to figure it out behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I often think about talking about like panic in the country and talking about like how socially our country reacted to the pandemic, the lockdowns, the quarantines. Was like, well, how crazy would have 2020 been if George Floyd didn't die? If that social issue
You gave me chills. That was wild.
You know what I mean?
But you also have to look at things like, I feel because we were all confined to our own situations and at home, that it made it more apparent. There's been racial injustice going on
for decades.
It just so happened to be that we were all locked down at home and a man died at the hands of a police officer.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, of course, there's going to be mass hysteria. Of course, people are going to be outraged. And then you kind of go into the next thing of Breonna Taylor dying.
Yeah.
You go into, there's all these injustices that have been happening, but it made it more apparent because we were all at home.
So what really...
It made us pay more attention to it because we had nothing else to do.
Right. So you bring up a good point, right? You're forced to pay attention to it. And the way I kind of view it is, so George Floyd is one man. Right. He quite literally can only die once.
Right.
And he only did die once.
Right.
But with the way social media is, the way the media is, both left and right, they're both guilty of this.
Right. Absolutely.
The way they operate is they operate off of fear mongering. They operate off of like the clickbait mentality. And so
gaslighting is so prominent. Like, I can't even deal with it.
Right. So you have this footage. I forget the young lady's name that filmed it, but the 17, 18-year-old girl that filmed it that went viral, right?
Yeah.
So that gets millions of views on Instagram and Facebook. It's played on the news every night. So while George Floyd, the man, can only die once, in the eyes of the average American household, he's dying millions of times.
For sure.
And that's just slowly but surely churning that fire. Right. So I agree with you. And so we bring up Breonna Taylor. What didn't make sense to me about that incident happening was like the cookie cutter, like that is exactly what the right 2A guys should have wanted. If there's a case where it's like a no-knock warrant, people died, it was a minority, and they found out that the person they're looking for was already in custody.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perfect scenario for like the right-wing Second Amendment people would be like, this is why you need guns.
Yeah.
This is if they were armed, they would be okay. If we had laws, wow, that was loud. If we had laws against no-knock warrants, they would still be alive. And instead, what I see from the right wing, the far right, the far right media is, well, she was actually a part of a drug thing and her boyfriend really was peddling drugs and they really were doing this. It's
and I come to the point where I really just try to be just a decent human being.
Right.
I don't give a fuck if you were smuggling drugs over Mexico. If you didn't rape or murder someone, you don't get, your home is not allowed to be bombarded by police officers. Yeah. And you don't get to die in your fucking sleep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
like,
I agree.
That's
the state has no right to kick down your door.
Absolutely.
Like one that really killed me, and you know about this, so you can investigate it better than I can. The dude who was shot in his underwear. Find that one. Find that one. It's hard, but we found it. So I forget the guy's name. But what happened was it was like 2, 3 in the morning, and there was. Do you remember what the call was?
It was a domestic.
Was it domestic? I thought it wasn't. I thought it was something less than domestic.
I think it was.
Okay, so it was a domestic. Let's say it was a domestic violence call.
Yeah.
By the neighbors. That there was some yelling and screaming it was like an apartment complex. And so the police officers, and again, like every other incident, there's body camera footage.
Right.
And so the police officers come up. And so if like the door is here, and the door swings open this way, right? So there's a police officer here. And then there's like two or three kind of, there's two standing back and there's one that actually approaches the door. So there's one completely out of sight, right? And from a tactical standpoint, like I get it. Like if you were going to a call where there's an armed gunman, like there's violence happening, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's a domestic violence call.
Right.
So it's like, okay, maybe you're being extra careful. Sure. Maybe you have, again, playing like devil's advocate, trying to see the other side. Maybe there's been heightened crime in that area with firearms. Maybe there has been a heightened murder rate. Whatever it is that led them to that point, I still just don't want to believe that the police officers are mindlessly shooting people. Like, I don't want to believe that.
Well,
but
you don't want to believe it, but that's seriously... That's what is happening.
Right. So then what ends up happening in this incident is...
Who's the man who just got killed by the police officer meant to tase him, but he shot him?
We were just talking about that. Like, okay, perfect. No, pull that up. Pull that up and we'll talk about that.
That's why I can't get behind this, like... You're fucking trained, dude. You know your gun from your taser. Like you are trained in that.
You should. Now, granted, I'm not taking away.
You absolutely fucking should.
Yeah, and I'm not taking away from the weight of a handgun, a loaded handgun from a taser. Because come the fuck on. You don't have to hold both to assume.
Right.
But so Ryan Whitaker. Okay, so what happens is they come to his house or his apartment, and they knock on the door, and he opens, and they like bang on the door too, right? They bang on the door and they yell, "It's police, open up." But they don't stand in front of the eye hole. You can't, from like even the body cam footage, you wouldn't be able to see that it's cops outside. So he opens the door and I'm pretty sure he's a vet too, right? Because I remember seeing a picture of him at his either daughter or his sister's graduation. He's wearing a grunt style shirt. So I'm pretty sure he was a vet. Well, anyway, he opens the door. He's in a t-shirt and boxers, and he's holding a pistol. Because no shit, right?
It's your
home.
So,
right. So he opens the door, and they're like, and they draw their weapons on him, and like put the gun down. And what he tries to do is put the gun down. Yeah, perfect, right there. So he's shirtless with boxers. Perfect. And the video, before anything crazy starts playing. You can sit in the chair. That is.
I just wanted to see the
video. So he tries to lower the gun with his left hand, and with his right hand he's like raising like a stop motion, like a I'm friendly.
Yeah.
And they kill him. So they kill the guy, and his girlfriend walks out. She's in her pajamas, like, shorts and like a tank top.
Yeah.
And she walks out and she's like, "What the fuck?" Like, yeah, play it and kind of like skip through, see if they show the body cam footage. I doubt they show it. It's the 9 o'clock.
Oh, they for sure can't show it.
Oh, wait, there it is, right there. Yeah, so keep going. Press the keys, the arrow keys. Doesn't make it feel a little better. Yeah. So yeah, see, he's hiding right behind him, and he has his arm up, and he's putting the gun down, and they shoot him in the back. So keep going. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. See if they show where the girlfriend comes out. Okay, so they don't. Well, the girlfriend comes out. There's an extended version of this body cam footage, and the girlfriend comes out, and she's like, "What happened? Like, what's going on?" And one of the police officers tries to explain to her, like, "We were calling domestic violence. He came out with a gun, and we heard yelling. We were told there's yelling and screaming, and somebody was in danger." And she goes, "Yeah, we were making salsa and playing PlayStation.
And you just fucking killed my boyfriend.
And, yeah,
Like,
so I'm watching that and I'm like, well,
and see, so doesn't that just, it doesn't even play anymore into, the racing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is racial injustice in our country, but
Yeah.
it goes to show that you're fucking trained to protect and serve, and you just shot someone in the back for fucking what?
yeah, exactly.
Like that is insane.
Yeah, like I don't know if like you guys play video games at all. I don't know what you do at the home.
No, I think people
but-
who play video games are weird.
Okay,
and
you know what?
psychopaths, like
you can
sociopaths.
walk for all I care. You can walk, sir.
Her little brother plays like the weirdest video games I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
But like if you do anything recreational at your house, alcohol or not, and it's
Right.
competitive, voices tend to get raised.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
And if that becomes a justification for cops to show up with guns, what are we doing here?
So do you think that like maybe more so in our country than, because if you look statistically in other countries, they don't have this kind of police issue in their countries at
So,
all.
I think-
so. Do you think there should be like extensive training
Yes.
more so in our country than
Yes.
others?
Yes.
Okay, good. I absolutely agree
without
with you.
without a
Yeah.
doubt. Because here's why. I think our culture right now, sadly, like there's the perfect way I've heard it explained to me was that hard men create easy times. Easy times create soft men. Soft men create hard times. And we're kind of in that latter part
Are
of
you
it.
like a philosopher?
well, the reason I bring that up is because I think the culture that we have right now breeds laziness.
For sure.
At any like facet, right? So the laziness that applies to the way our politicians, whether it's like the city mayors, the governors, all the Congress, I think the way they treat the police officers is they're lazy about it. And they're like, well, yeah, they're the guys with body armor and guns. We let them have AR-15s, so they clearly can take care of themselves in any situation. So just let them deal with it.
Yeah.
Let them deal with everything. And now I'm not on board with having like social workers show up to like crime scenes, like where there's actually like a hostage situation going on, anything like that. I'm not necessarily on board with that. But what I am on board with is actually funding the police more than we already are, in the same way we should be funding teachers and school systems more than we already
But
are.
what do you mean funding? If we're gonna fund the police,
Right,
it
so
needs to be
so
more
here's why.
extensive
So,
training.
yeah, so here's why. Because how are you going to get more training? How are you going to get more time? Where because here's what goes into training a force, right? So if you're going to force officers to train de-escalation.
Yeah.
Perfect example. You're going to train them how to do de-escalation exercises. That means that you have to take officers off of shift and still pay them, mind you,
sure.
right? This
Yeah.
is all
Yeah.
money based.
Absolutely.
You have to take them off of shift, put them in training, so that takes away from them actually being on the streets doing their job. So therefore, you have to get more police officers in to fill those roles, and we have a huge shortage of police officers across the nation, especially here in Albuquerque. Like I don't know if you saw it back in I think the campaign started in early 2019, maybe late 2018 even, where they raised the starting pay after probation for APD to $60,000 a year. That's a lot of fucking money.
That's a lot of fucking
That's
money.
a lot of fucking money. So that is an incentive for people to become cops. But because of the social climate right now, nobody wants to do it.
But don't you think so? To bounce off of that, there
Yeah.
still needs to be extensive fucking training.
Right, so let me finish.
So that people, yeah.
Yeah, so training, right? So you have to fund all of this. This requires a lot of money because if you're pulling the police force off of their shift and making them do training, you have to have more police officers to fill that while they're training and vice versa.
Right.
And so that requires more money. You're paying more people. You're still paying people, so on and so forth, especially if your department goes into like overtime, right? Then it's like, well, am I getting time and a half for doing training?
Yeah.
Am I getting the standard rate for doing training?
Yeah.
What is that? And then you have to, like, honestly, the way I see it is you would have to revamp your police academy. So you have to put a lot of money in your police academy into hiring individuals who not only just people who have been street cops, but maybe people who are like ex Special Forces, Green Berets, SEALs. Like if you want a really good like someone who can break this down a lot better than I can. Jocko Willink. He's been.
And listen, that's the thing that I feel like one of our biggest problems in our country is like we all sit here and talk about it, right? But we don't do anything about it. So it's like we can sit here all day and debate and talk about it, but like when do we actually put a plan into place and fucking do it?
So there you go.
You know what I mean?
So there you go. So that specific point is I agree with you, but that goes into laziness because the people in power right now don't want to sit down and have these conversations. They don't want to say, okay, well, the only real solution to this right now is getting more money into the local police departments, at least at the bare minimum, federal police departments, so that we can get more training happening, get more high-speed training.
But also, listen, when people of color stop dying by the hands of police, then we can maybe talk about funding the police for more extensive training. Until then, I can't be on board with it.
So how do you get better training done without more money?
That's a good fucking question.
You can't. I don't think you can. Personally, I really don't think you can. Because, I mean, okay, so if you really want to take it all the way back, right? So Washington's army during the American Revolution. At first, a lot of people don't know this. They couldn't train with rifles because they were so underfunded, and there were just these ragtag individuals that had an idea, right? The grand experiment that would become America. They would actually do their exercises with broomsticks because they knew that, because again, if they're off in Virginia in the far east part of the country where there's harsh winters and even harsher summers, where if those rifles got damaged during training, we can't replace them. That's your one rifle, bud.
Right.
Like if you break it, you're gonna be fighting with a stone. So the reason why I bring that up.
God, please be more loud.
The reason I bring that up is more money equals better output. Now, granted, if you're using it right,
I 100% agree with you.
If you're using it right,
yeah.
So I think you need to put more money into training the force you have. You need to put more money into revamping your existing police academies, and then I also think that the federal.
But wouldn't you think that after so many years of the oppression and the senseless murders of people of color by the hands of police, shouldn't this have been a conversation 20 fucking years ago?
No, it's systemic.
I just
Well, no, I agree.
I can't.
No, I agree. And so there's actually, as a little side note, can you look up what the current administration's budget is for policing? 'Cause I think it actually went up. I'm just curious. I don't know if that was some stupid graph that I saw, but I'm just curious.
Can I ask you a
Yes.
question since
Yes.
we're here?
Yes.
Who did you vote for in the last election?
Do you really want to know?
I really want to know.
I've tried to stay away from it, but you really want to know?
no. I wanted to stay away from politics this whole time. We've been talking about politics this whole time. Who did you vote for?
You really want to know?
I think I know who you voted for.
Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess first? Okay, so look at the federal budget for 2000 and look at 2017 because compare that to 2020 because
The budget for what?
For the policing, because that's the thick of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Okay, 286 billion. So then what is it? Or million. So what is it now?
Maybe let's get off to a lighter note and talk about some funny shit that actually matters.
Oh, so you know some funny shit that actually matters?
Sure.
Do you want to know who I voted for?
No, I don't think I want to know.
Are you sure? 'Cause I think it's kind of funny.
Wait, I feel like you maybe didn't vote for Trump. Did you vote for Trump? I knew you didn't for sure. Who did you vote for?
But I didn't vote for Biden either.
I know you did. Who did you vote for, Joe?
No.
Who did you vote for?
I got a mail-in ballot.
Okay.
Now, granted, who knows if it fucking went in or not?
Who was the other candidate? Why can't Jo Jorgensen? Did you vote for her?
Negatory. Ghost Rider.
Who the fuck did you vote for then?
What's beautiful about the American ballot system is at the very bottom you can write people in.
If you say some dumb shit, Noah, I'm not even gonna be on board with you.
So I wrote in Joe Rogan.
You're such a fucking idiot.
Because our system is a joke.
It's a joke. It's all a joke. Now, here's the thing. Who's to say it even made it, right? Who's to say it even made it? But all I know is that Kanye West got 3% of the votes.
Isn't that insane?
Like,
seriously.
And if you watch his episode with Rogan.
You know what? Kanye West at this point can eat my ass for having a girlfriend, and like Kim Kardashian is the queen of the world, and you will not change my mind.
Oh, did you hop off from the Billie Eilish train or what?
Do you have like elephant memory? How do you even remember that, you psycho?
Yeah, of course I remember that.
No, I still love Billie Eilish, but I feel like Olivia Rodrigo is like taking over like Billie Eilish's crown.
Who is that? I'm sorry, dude.
The girl who sings Driver's License?
But that hit a bulb.
Have you not listened to her album? It's like my album is dedicated to my ex-boyfriend because he's such a piece of shit.
Can I get a picture?
Olivia Rodrigo.
Good for you in my truck.
Oh.
Yeah, what is wrong with you, Noah?
So, you know what's funny? That song kind of sparks the old, like, Paramore from middle school.
Absolutely it does.
You know what I
for
mean?
Sure.
Like, what's that song? Misery Business.
Yes.
That's what that kind of sparks in the back of my
For
head.
sure.
That
It
song,
like
Good For
brings
You.
back your emo like high school days.
Yeah, like, see what's funny though about Billie Eilish is people like, and granted, I feel like they were very quickly silenced, but I don't know, you know this better than I do. That new music video she put out, I haven't even watched it yet. I've just seen GIFs.
Billy's?
Yes, where it's like a pajama party of all women.
Oh yeah.
What song is that?
Is it Your Power?
Is it Your Power?
I don't know.
Because Your Power is a good fucking song.
Man, I'm like a bad millennial right now. I don't know.
Like, that's a good song. And Everything I Wanted, that's a great song too.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good stuff. But
What's my favorite song by her? You Should See Me in a Crown.
that's a good album.
That shit,
Yeah. But
that's hot girl shit
what's-
right there, bro.
White Boy Summer. But what's funny is like people tried to hop on her for that music video, like, oh, she's overly sexual, she's overly like what? She's never been sexual, but I remember looking at that and thinking, but up until like a year ago, wasn't she?
Do you know what? Still, again, something in 2021 that still like is so bizarre to me that men are allowed to be sexual and be hot and talk about boning women, but when a woman does it, it's like this taboo thing. Like they're not allowed. Like vaginas
feel
exist,
like
people. Like women are allowed to be sexual and hot and sexy.
I feel like that's slowly dissipating though.
I feel like it's not. I feel like people are making it worse. Like, why are like women still like looked at like this like stigma of you're not allowed to be sexual, you're not allowed to be hot? Like, I think
mean,
that's
you can't-
insane.
I mean, you can't show dick in a movie either. Wait,
mean,
or
they
can
should.
you? Can you show a dick in a movie? Some dick, right?
I don't know if I may have seen a few dicks in a movie.
Well, because it's weird. Because like, you ever seen Big Mouth?
No.
Oh, dude, Big Mouth is fucking hilarious.
Listen, I'm like the last person to watch a cartoon. I hate that shit.
It is hilarious.
It gives me anxiety.
Why? It's a cartoon.
I just hate cartoons.
So even like this, like the Simpsons movie was PG-13 and they showed Bart's dick for like a half a second.
You couldn't even ask me what any character's name in The Simpsons is.
That's fine. It's
I could never.
You just
tell
gotta know Homer. That's the only one that matters. The
That's
dad.
the bald guy, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Listen,
But, so-
I'm a Latino. We didn't watch fucking Simpsons in my house. We watched Selena.
It's okay. No, and no black people watch the Cleveland show. So what are you gonna do? But no. So I really do think that's like slowly dissipating away because of, well, for one, the Me Too movement happened and it was overly successful
Yeah.
because so many women came out and were like, well, the big one was Harvey Weinstein. Like the Weinstein Company is they are a foothold in the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah.
They put out all of Tarantino's movies. It's like the Weinstein Company is just like 20th Century Fox or Paramount, right?
Yeah.
But when everyone started coming out and talking about Harvey and all the shit that he was doing, like I think the fucked up part about it was like, yes, it's horrible. And he should have gotten locked up and the punishment that he got is just. But it's almost like it
So
makes
then that's where you start to realize that white privilege is actually
what
a
what
thing.
almost like makes sense. It's like, yeah, that totally happens. Like no one really knew how to deal. Like it's like we knew how to deal with it, but nobody was. Again, I think everyone was too lazy to deal with the consequences
Yeah.
of what would happen. And what was the consequence? The fat guy went to jail, and we still have movies.
Right, yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Right. And then people give Tarantino so much shit because he's a foot fetish guy, and everyone thinks that he's all weird. But
No, I feel like you're a foot fetish guy.
I can't. I gotta be honest with you, man. Like I see my own feet, and I'm like, oh, I don't want anyone to deal with that.
I feel like fetishes, like obviously, like normalize sexuality, but I feel like people who have fetishes have like mental illness because I'm like, who actually fetishizes about like feet or like someone's butthole? Like that's crazy to me. And I'm like, I'm not judging anyone, but that's like fetishes like seriously freak me out. Like that's so bizarre.
God, I wish I made the trailer tomorrow. Holy
Wait, do you have a fetish?
I don't think so.
I feel like you have a fetish.
Yeah, I think I'm in that category. I don't know. Like, here's the way I see it. I think humans are weird, and I think that like, I mean, going all the way back to like the days of like the ancient Romans, right? There's like, yeah, we found artifacts of like the Colosseum, and we found their old weapons and their armor and but we also found ancient dildos. We found that too. That's a thing.
Christy, do you have a fetish?
This poor girl.
David, do you have a fetish?
Yeah, I don't know, but I just think like humans are weird, and I think that like now, I think so. American Western culture is like hypersexualized. I think, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Like sex is always sold. I mean, look at James Bond, right? That's a franchise from the 50s, but I mean, there's always Bond, the car, and the Bond girl, right? And the villain. But like those are the staples of a Bond movie, right?
Yeah.
You take out the Bond girl, like you want to see Americans fucking riot in the streets? Give him a Bond man. Like
just
gay James Bond would freak people the fuck out.
Even look at like 50 Shades of Grey. Like no other country would have come up with like such a crazy fetish shot. Is fetish sized? Fetish size? Is that a word?
Fetishized? I think that's a word.
I mean, who comes up with like such a crazy sexual thing like that besides America? Just us, no one else.
Bangkok. I think Bangkok. But you know what's funny about
Why Bangkok?
Because it has talk in it. You know what's funny about fucking, I don't know if you knew this or not, but 50 Shades of Grey, the lady who wrote that, she wrote the first draft off of 50 Shades of Grey based upon really self-admitted, really bad Tumblr Twilight fan fiction. That is where 50 Shades of Grey came from.
See, that's some
fun fact.
That's some white people shit
About movies. Fun fact about movies. 50 Shades of Grey is bad Twilight fan fiction. They let that simmer.
What are your thoughts on TikTok?
I think TikTok's a fucking cancer. And I
For
just
sure,
and
I
just
for sure have a disease.
Well, so
that
there's-
I'm like addicted to
'cause-
TikTok.
Well, here's why. Because so I actually just recently deleted my TikTok. I had it for a couple months, and I didn't download it for so long for two reasons. One, because everyone else was doing it, and I was like, okay, everyone else is doing it now. Like that might not be the best thing. But then also, like I heard I didn't look into it as much as I probably should have. But like all the Chinese like backing behind it, and just like the data invasion, like. And granted, I also have a fucking Facebook and an Instagram, and I get that. But like, I'm a little more biased for the Americans invading than the fucking Chinese. So sorry, but it's true. It's the truth. I'm more comfortable with that lizard Mark Zuckerberg finding out where I live than God knows who else in a communist country.
Yeah.
But what made me delete it was because I'd be on it, and my like what's it called, the subscribe page. You know, there's like the two sections you can go on to. So the subscribe page was all stuff like, it was like lifting weights and like David Goggins and Joe Rogan and like shit like that, like motivational stuff.
I feel like you're like obsessed with
I am.
Joe Rogan
I
sure.
am. It's a life source, man.
Yeah, I feel like you for sure
I am. Oh yeah. So there's that. But then my For You page was all like just stupid shit and then whores.
Whores?
Just whores. Just women wearing basically nothing, jumping around.
No, you just can't call women whores.
The horse. That's what I was like, when you're wearing a bikini that could be synonymous with dental floss. You know what I mean? So
I mean, G-strings have been around for like
dude,
5
no,
million
this is
years.
like the G-strings retarded cousin. Like this was so.
Can't say I have to cancel Noah.
Oh, dude. So I'm looking at all this and I'm like, okay, like as much as I love looking at attractive women, I'm wasting like, and I do this also admittedly with Facebook and Instagram where
Yeah.
I'm like scrolling and I don't even know I'm not registering what I'm looking at anymore. I'm just scrolling. But I found myself doing that a lot more with TikTok. And I was like, okay, this is bad. And then what really disturbed me and was like the last straw. It was a mixture of two things that really happened in the same day. It was, I'm scrolling through TikTok and multiple videos. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that girl's not 18. Like I'm looking at it. No, seriously, I'm looking at it. I'm like, she is not 18 and she is doing something adults should be doing.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And then I'm watching a Joe Rogan episode, and he has a really good episode with Crystal and Sagar. And if you don't know who Crystal and Sagar is, they are two people who run they run a political show that's anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes long per segment. And Crystal is more on the left, Sagar's more on the right, so it's like genuinely balanced.
Right.
And they have like actual opinions, which is refreshing.
Yeah.
But they're talking about TikTok. And they break down the algorithm of how like TikTok is the most refined app where it logs how much time you spend on each video, what type of video you spend each time on, and then it'll track that, and it's the best at creating a feed for you for where you never want to get off. And and I started thinking about it after I heard that. I was like, yeah, like I don't text and drive.
Yeah.
I don't even like Spotify and drive.
Yeah. I can't relate to that.
But like I found myself TikToking and driving. And I'm like, this is a really great app.
Have you ever listened to Call Her Daddy?
Yes, I have.
That is like one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
I think that podcast gets a lot of unnecessary shit, and I think a lot of the more extreme opinions on that are sexist based for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's a blonde white lady with blue eyes.
Right. What was the other girl's name that like they're not friends anymore?
So, but the girl who hosts it,
Yeah, right.
I don't think she gets enough credit. Because again, so you're bringing up the bias of like, well, guys can be like hypersexual and not really care. They can fuck all these women and it doesn't matter, but a woman does it and it's a bias. Well, I think that Call Her Daddy gets a lot of shit because they talk about sex and they talk about...
And that's why I like Call Her Daddy, because they normalize female sexuality.
Right,
That's why I like
which is
that
a good
podcast.
thing,
Yeah.
I think, right? I think, like, have your own personal opinions about what you want in a partner. Like, that's completely
sure.
separate. But, like, I think, like, publicly and socially, you shouldn't, like... Because I don't know why. I feel like, again, it's becoming less and less taboo, but sex is dope. Like, I don't think why...
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an argument against that. Unless you're an incel and you're not getting laid.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, dude or dudette, but sex is dope, right? And so, you know, to have a podcast like that where it's really... I'm sure there's a lot like it, but in the mainstream, like, it's really one of its own. And they talk about very, like, no pun intended, but raw subjects.
Yeah.
And I listened to the episode... I think like, because I tend to listen to a podcast in bits and chunks, like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. I might finish an episode a day, but like it might take a bit. But I listened to the episode, like I made a point to listen to it all the way between like car, AirPods, fucking my speaker upstairs while I'm showering and whatever. Like, this was a good episode.
Yeah.
They did an episode with Mia Khalifa because I heard a lot of For those who don't know, she's a porn star. Because there's a lot of, I remember like way back, I think like 2017, there's a lot of controversy around her and the Islamic countries. And they talk about it and how like she got like death threats from ISIS and all this insanity because I guess she shot a video with a turban on or the headdress. I don't want to be like overly offensive, but like whatever.
I like literally have only recently heard of her. I like am not even familiar with like anything.
Yeah, so she's a
That she is.
Yeah, so she's like a Middle Eastern woman who became a porn star for a period of time, and I guess from her own accord. Is that the correct term? Turban? Hijab? Okay. So I guess she shot a porn video wearing a hijab. And then that made its way over to the Middle East. And then they lost their fucking mind. And this happened to be in the height of the ISIS regime. So ISIS started sending her fucking death threats and shit. And then, but then when she finally gets out of porn and she finally does, like gets away from all that, it turns out that like the statistics of who watches porn the most, Middle Eastern countries. They beat out America. And what was really ironic is the majority, like she was like in the top 3 pornographic actresses in those countries.
That's crazy.
So hearing her story and like what she had went through and like, look, admittedly, like I've also read articles she had given interviews where she's like, well, I want all my videos like taken off the internet because I don't want it anymore. I'm ashamed of what I did.
Yeah.
I kind of see that and I'm like, well, just like any other movie you make, like, look, Brad Pitt can't turn around and say, hey, I'm embarrassed of Legends of the Fall. Take that off shelves.
Either
like
Kim Kardashian.
Exactly, right? So when you make these licensed movies, these licensed videos, you are no longer your own.
For sure.
You are what you are playing.
Yeah.
So you gotta live with it, man.
Do you have a favorite type of porn?
No. I've actually been like quitting that shit. No, seriously, bro. Like no, seriously.
No, you know me. I'm very blunt.
No, this is good. No, this is good. Like
everyone, but even though you're quitting, everyone has a favorite type of porn for sure.
Regular.
Like a missionary.
I don't know. The one with the hot chick. I don't know. What? It's
Yeah.
like so because like. So again, like coronavirus, like really, amongst other things we talked about beforehand,
Yeah.
Coronavirus really helped me like reset a lot of shit that I was doing in my life that was like wasn't great. Not that I was like sitting in a dungeon beating off 8 times a day, but like I just knew that like, especially now that like I have a full-time job, I'm running the podcast. I also want like I'm trying to keep my health together, doing all these things that take up my time. Like I don't have time to sit around and fucking beat off. Like I don't have time to just waste my life away in front of a screen. So,
well, God, why were you wasting your life away beating off?
Well, I don't. Because I was a dumb teenager. Oh yeah. So like during quarantine, you know, you're locked in your house doing nothing. I just go down YouTube rabbit holes, and there's these really good TED Talks about like how a lot of sexual dysfunctions are happening in men in the West because of how excessive. Granted, I'm sure it's happening in Europe too, but you know, in the West, because of how hyperactive we can be as humans, right, and how we have the internet, we have the world's knowledge at our disposal, but because of how easy it is to connect with pornography, what that's doing to the average American male's brain between the ages of 13, I think it was 28, 29. And what it was showing was like, this was a phenomenon that quite literally started spiking with the beginning of the internet. Because obviously Playboy's been around since like the 60s.
Yeah,
right. 60s to the 50s.
Right, yeah.
But because of the way internet pornography is displayed, and how accessible it is and how much of it you can get and how many you're talking about fetishes, categories, how many different versions of it you can get, that is absolutely destroying your reward system.
Well, there's statistics and even being a psychology major, that pornography is very destructive to the mind. Like it's a false pretense of what intimacy should be, and
Well, not only that, so going a little deeper than that, like, yes, it is ruining the idea, especially for people who have never had sex before.
yeah,
Ruining what sex is, right? It's not just, I mean, granted, it can be a random meetup, you do things and you leave, but like, in theory, when you want it to be meaningful, have some longevity, you build a connection with somebody, it's a lot more than just being the plumber that shows up to the Hot Mills fucking house, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it is ruining what the experience of sex can be. More than that, though, what it's doing to your brain is, so at the bare minimum of what our brain is, we have to eat, we have to survive, and procreate.
yeah,
Right? That's just our whole thing, is procreate. And so way, way back, right, if you want to go through the evolutionary theory, when we were super primal, we're just the fucking cavemen with the giant sticks bonking dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like, we used to have to fight other animals. We would have to fight other tribes of humans. What was the other species of human called that we lived alongside? The Neanderthals. So there's a time in our human history where there was humans, and then there was also Neanderthals, right? The lesser versions of us.
yeah,
So you're fighting against all of these different creatures, pretty much, right? And you're fighting whether it's for food, whether it's for land, shelter, or a mate.
right.
So it's at our very early history, it's quite hard to have sex, and it's hard to procreate and have offspring that will carry on, like your tribe or your nation, right?
Speaking of like procreating, what's your thoughts on like Trump's ideologies, who is past president, on gay people being able to adopt?
Okay, so I'll get to that.
There's many restrictions on
Yeah,
that.
so I'll get to that. So I'll get to that for sure. Admittedly, I only know a little bit, so we're gonna have to definitely call in David.
Yeah.
But so you want to start looking that stuff up. But it's very hard to procreate, right? But now life has gotten so easy. It's so easy to have sex with people,
Right.
And it's consensually. I'm gonna make that very clear. It's so easy to have sex with people. It's so easy to meet other people. You don't have to fight for food anymore. You don't have to really like physically brawl for a mate or
Yeah.
kill for a mate. So that already gets easy, right? Then you inject internet pornography. So you're sitting in front of a screen and you're watching all these videos, looking at all these images, whatever it is you're into on the specifically internet pornography. And and what's unfortunate is that it is unilaterally biased towards men,
For sure.
right? So you're beating off in front of a screen to whatever it is you're watching, and your brain is thinking, okay, well, whatever I'm attracted to on that screen, whether it's you're watching one video. I remember one TED Talk brought up how like it's the average amount of tabs a internet pornography addicted user opens is between, I think, like 6 or 7 and 10. So you got all these tabs.
That's insane.
Right. So you've got all these tabs opened up, and it's a variation of videos and pictures and whatever the fuck it is you're into, right? So you have all of these prescribed mates on your computer screen, your monitor, and your brain, while you're going through it and you ultimately finish, your brain is digesting that as, well, I'll be damned. We just impregnated fucking 7 people, and we did it sitting in this comfy ass chair. Good job, body.
Just essentially, humans are disgusting.
We can be. No, we can be for sure. So your brain is digesting it like that, right?
Yeah.
So you have that scenario, and then you have to combine that, unfortunately, with the scenario that you just brought up, where real sex has, for one, more than one person. It's got fucking smells, touches, sounds, different environments.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It has all these elements coming into one thing. So you combine all this together. The brain doesn't know what the fuck, again, for an internet pornography addicted individual,
right.
right? They don't know what the fuck to do, and they freak out, and that results in erectile dysfunction, delayed ejaculation, premature ejaculation. It comes up with you can't even erectile dysfunction. Like you get one, you can't maintain it. You don't even get one in the first place.
Yeah.
Like you have all these sexual problems
Yeah.
that root to years and years and years.
But don't you think someone who's pornography addicted, like maybe had some fucking daddy issues or
Maybe.
had, you were emotionally detached from your
Yeah.
mom or,
So maybe,
you know what I mean?
So I think so, maybe. And now granted, I'm watching all these videos myself and I'm like, I never got that bad, thank God. Oh my God. Like this is the path you can go down?
Right.
Holy shit. Well, so that's what made me switch. Right. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that anymore. Like, oh my God, that's horrible. Right.
Yeah.
That scared, they genuinely scared the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like what's inspired me to help like wean off and just start quitting altogether.
Right.
But I agree. Like there could be a lot of reasons. It could be childhood trauma. It could be, I think bullying is a big thing. I mean, I remember like growing up through like middle school and high school, it was like, oh, you've never kissed a girl. You never had sex. Well, you're a loser. You're a fucking whatever. And I'm like, well, okay. That I'm 140 pounds soaking wet, and I've got hair all over my body. I haven't grown into it yet, But like, it's like okay, well, oh well. But then I'm sure there's like harsh bullying that can, this is a very much an extreme, but you get into people that are like incels, right? The involuntary celibates, where they fucking hate women and they think that all women are trash and like they're the reason they can't, all that insanity that's not fucking true, right? So, and then maybe it is childhood trauma from parents or relatives or God knows what, or maybe they had a regular upbringing, but they just happen to have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
That, and that addictive personality, it can come out in pornography, alcohol, drugs, gambling, shopping. Like, I mean, crack,
Crack.
but like,
Crack, dude.
I thought you said crack.
Say crack again.
But
Crack.
Tobacco. Like, there's a lot of ways that an addictive personality can be super destructive. But in this subject, on a more positive note, I truly believe that if you find healthy ways, and it's hard, but like if you find healthy ways to help rework your reward system, if you have any sort of like relative, addictive personality, you can rework your reward system to be positive, right? You get addicted to like winning and whatever winning is to you, right? And then, you get really good at the one thing and you just carry that into success.
Yeah.
I think that's the positive side of it. So you asked the question about what's Trump's what's
policy on LGBTQ people adopting children.
So what is it? Because I admittedly haven't looked into it.
no idea. I just know there's a big thing that's going on right now that
Well, let's find out. Zoom in a
put in
little bit
place.
because my eyes suck. I have bad genes. So go to the top right of your screen.
And just to bounce off
The
of that before we delve into this, there was when
it's good.
when Trump was elected, I was very upset. And I was like, it is what it is. He's going to be my president. I tried to support everything he did up until the point that he banned transgender people from serving our country. And I have a transgender cousin. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? I can't even support anything that you believe in because at this point, you signed a bill banning transgender people from fighting, serving our country.
Yeah.
Like if we were to be fucking ambushed by Korea or, any other country, you don't want this person who's willing to have the balls to fucking serve us?
Yeah.
Like that's just so inhumane.
I think that was a bit of an overcorrection. I agree with that.
And so at that point, I can no longer just
That was the
anything,
straw that broke the camel's
for
back.
sure. And and a lot of people don't understand that, but you can't understand it unless you are going through. And so having a transgender cousin who I adore is just like, if he wanted to go serve, he's not allowed to because you just don't think it's right.
Right. So if you don't mind me asking, I'm going to genuinely use the correct the correct the correct verbiage as I can. Is it a male going to female or female going to male?
My cousin is female to male.
Female to male.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, as much as you want to get into it, I know it's not necessarily like specifically your business, but like, what do you think were the motivations behind wanting to? Because that's the big debate, right?
Right.
Is like, is it because gender dysphoria was a mental illness in the you're a fucking psychology mate.
I think it was in the 80s that like
It was the big book. No, what's the big book?
Right. And
What's it called?
They published it in I think it was the 80s.
Yeah, they update it every 5 years. What's it called? The big fucking book. Where's Springer when you need him? It's the big book, and it talks about, it's literally all dedicated to mental disorders.
Right. And I even still think in 2021 that gender dysphoria is still considered a mental disorder.
It got removed in 2019.
Okay.
It got removed in 2019. That mental disorders book. Yeah, perfect. The DSM-5, dyslexia. So the DSM-5. So I know that up until like I think 2019 or even like 2017, gender dysmorphia was considered a mental illness.
Yeah,
because it was not natural for a male to believe he was a female and vice versa.
Right.
So now the big debate was like, well, if these people want to be transgender, you know, inherently that's going against, like scientifically, that's going against your biology.
Well, hold on. Take back the verbiage. It's not like you want to be transgender.
Or right. You are transgender. Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you. You are transgender. You're going against your biology. And so is it truly something that is ingrained in them? Like that is like no shit, like how it is? Like for instance, there's a big question like, well, you can just stop being gay. Like if you asked me to stop being straight, I can't stop being straight.
And you know, a lot of the times, and as a psychology major, you learn going through college, sexuality and gender are two separate things. And so just like I can't like women, a transgender person cannot feel who they are. If you feel like you're a man and that's truly what you believe, like you can't change that. And why would you? And a lot of the times I'm like, when people are so hateful and demeaning towards this certain community, it's like, do you really think that we would make our lives harder on fucking purpose? Like, why would we deliberately put ourselves through a hardship?
Yeah.
But it's like, now that we can come out as ourselves, you still want to fuck with us, you still want to demean us and make us lesser than a human being.
Yeah.
Like you don't deliberately put yourself through hardships.
No, and I agree with that. No, I mean that makes perfect sense. I've never heard it put that way. And that makes perfect sense. And I'm not against the transgender community at all.
Yeah.
I honestly I just would like to learn more about it because there's just, I think there is a lot of, again, because it's so, it's still so taboo and it's not like really, up until recently, I'd say like the last 4 or 5 years, it hasn't really been brought into the spotlight too much.
I feel like, and I don't even want to bring like Caitlyn Jenner into it. I feel like when Caitlyn Jenner came out,
that was the big milestone.
That was a huge milestone.
Well, because and
that's when people really started recognizing the transgender community. But transgender people, gay people have been around since the fucking beginning of time.
Well, right.
This isn't like a new thing. People are making it new, but you know, when there's a huge celebrity or a huge figure that's, you know, going to come out and say I'm gay or I'm transgender, of course people are going to recognize that.
That's what it takes. And what was crazy about Caitlyn Jenner, like obviously I don't think no one in this room grew up with Bruce Jenner being the star athlete that he was.
Yeah.
But you look at the history of Bruce Jenner, this dude was an Olympic gold medalist at being an alpha male.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he figured out what it meant to be a male specimen and then went and beat the world at it.
Yeah.
Quite literally beat the world at it.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So when you, like the dude's on the box of Wheaties. So when you take that kind of figure and you turn him, but like you take that figure and that figure becomes that huge milestone for the transgender community. Like obviously you're going to have the skeptics where it's like, well, is he really? Are you sure? But the way I look at that is like, well, since Bruce became Caitlyn, right, made that transition, hasn't really been all that problematic. In fact, Caitlyn is running for governor of California, and one of the first things Caitlyn said was transgender girls cannot compete in fucking female athletics.
It's just such a joke to me. It's like, have we not learned in the past 4 years that like celebrities should not be in a place of power to run a country or a fucking city? Like, it's just, I feel like we've learned a lot, and that's why I can't back Caitlyn at all, and I never have. You can't try to be part of a community and also be an ally and also be yourself, but then, you know, negate everything you stand for and say, oh, transgender girls can't compete in women's sports.
They should.
But you want everyone to accept you and recognize you. That's like insane to me.
Well, let me give you a perfect example, because I agree with what you said. Let me give you a perfect example. Fallon Fox. Do you know who that is?
No.
Fallon Fox is a... Let me get a little closer. There we go. Being a hypocrite. Fallon Fox is a UFC... Well, used to be a UFC fighter. She competed in the women's division of, I think, the light middleweight of UFC. And she showed up. Bring up a picture of Fallon Fox just for an example. Beat the fuck out of women left and right. And the head administrators at UFC were like, that's a moneymaker. She's beating the fuck out of people left and right. Let's just keep her. This is awesome. This is great. But then they find out that she was a biological man for like 31 years, 33 years, and then went through a transgender reassignment, like the gender reassignment surgery, became a woman, and then went into the female division and beat the fuck out of women. So you were a woman, or you were a man for over 3 decades, and then you have all that testosterone, all that just man going through your body. You're going to have an unfair advantage against women.
But shouldn't that have been like the MMA's fucking like policy to do physicals and everything?
Right. No,
like
there's a lot of balls dropped.
Right.
In this whole vetting
and
process.
So I just feel like that's a poor example of, you know, trans females or trans men competing in their sports that they identify with.
No, I think that's a great example of what can happen when a man transitions into a woman and then goes compete against other women and wins.
But how do you go about doing physicals and making like that? That's a money making business. MMA, so any sport.
Yeah, I agree.
So
no, they fucked up. I'm not excusing the UFC,
but like, you know, that's what I'm saying. She still identifies as a female, but how is it that? Like, do you really think, like, in her mind, she deliberately wanted to beat up women? She's like, I'm a man. I'm going to beat up women.
What I think, and granted, I don't know Fallon Fox. I have not read a whole extensive lot of interviews. But what I think happened was that she was an individual, or she is an individual, a lot like the Caitlyn Jenner's Elliot Page, where they genuinely were like, dude, I am not comfortable in my own biology. Like, this ain't right. We have the science to do it. I've got the money. Let's go. Right? But the problem is that if you're going to go through over 3 decades of having so much testosterone going through your body, and you're going through a training regimen of a man, you're building muscle like a man, and then what I think it legitimately was 3 or 4 years later, and then she started beating the fuck out of women. Like, I'm not saying she set out to just beat the shit out of women. I don't think that's what it was at all. But there should have been someone there, or someone's there to say, hey, that's not right. Now,
I agree.
I think, honestly, if you're going to have transgenders compete in different sports, because I think you get into a weird medium, because you can't exactly have... So, again, Fallon Fox, if she wanted to compete in the UFC, she's not going to fucking win against the men.
Right.
Like she was light middleweight. I think even like lightweight. It's like the Conor McGregor's, Dustin Poirier, they're going to beat the fuck out of her. Like, there is no way she's going to survive.
Yeah.
But she still would have an unfair advantage against the Thug Roses, Holly Holmes, of the female side of the UFC. So I think that if you have enough women, or I guess enough transgenders, you could almost have your own transgender side of whatever competitive sport you're playing.
I just think if you're going to make it an issue that trans people can't compete in the sports that they identify with, then you need to have policies and things put in place to where they're biologically a man
I
or a
agree. So
woman.
like almost like amendments.
Yeah, and if you really care about it that much, and so that's where I kind of just will end it with, just be a good person, but if you really care about it that much, then put the fucking policies in place.
I agree. And I think
Told you not to drink that.
that one kind of bit a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, that was fun. So I know I agree with you, and I think that's really like, and maybe this is blind hope, maybe this is like dumb faith, but with the way that podcasting has recently taken off, this is unregulated, right?
Yeah.
Doing this kind of medium it's like the Wild West of media right now. We're not CNN, we're not Fox, we're not MSNBC, we're not fucking, what's the alt-right news media they did, like the One Media or whatever, you know what I'm talking about? Well, no, that's like conspiracy theories and Alex Jones. That guy's a crack, I swear. But I think what's really going to help our country out the most is more of mediums like this happening, where people, whether you're like-minded or not, you're sitting down and you just have a conversation about your problems.
Right.
You'll come to a healthy medium. And
Absolutely.
And I think that if we really do need to rework the way honestly, one of the big motivators of me doing this was watching the presidential debates, and like I grow up, and for whatever reason, like growing up I hated politics, but I liked watching the debates. I wasn't sure why.
Yeah.
But like watching them and becoming older, starting to become an adult, I look at them and I'm like, you just asked this individual to fix climate change in 30 seconds? Are you kidding me? Dude, I can barely get dressed in 30 seconds.
Right.
You want me to fix climate,
Yeah.
to balance the budget in the war in Iraq in a minute? So I think that like it's so important for people to sit down, like in our government for sure, but I think on a social level, and like have these conversations.
Well, and I've like really enjoyed doing this with you because we are able to sit down as civil fucking grown men.
Yeah.
And have an
conversation.
intellectual conversation about things that need to be discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I really do think that like when you sit down with somebody, you'll find out that you have more in common than you have differences.
Absolutely.
And differences are okay. That's
Right.
That's
what makes us unique as human beings.
What the variety to spice of
Right.
life.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like I really do think that whether you're looking at stuff like transgenders competing, well, I'm sorry, but you originally, I don't want to stray away from your question. You asked me what my thoughts were on his policy of LGBT people adopting.
Yeah.
And then you talked about transgender serving.
Yeah.
So I don't want to dismiss your question. I think that gay people should be able to adopt. That's pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people get so mad. Like, it's an old argument. I don't hear it very much anymore, but I know growing up I heard it.
It
was
very archaic. It's like I thought we covered civil rights fucking 60 years ago. Like why? Like
well, because it's like, oh well, gay people shouldn't get married because they can't procreate. Well, it's like, well, okay, well, like yes, like if you wrote that down on a piece of paper and showed it to me, you are correct. They cannot procreate. This is true. However, if they want to have a kid and we have an adoption system that is in fucking shambles right now,
Right.
maybe they're the prime audience to
Yeah.
go and adopt if they so choose.
right.
Right? That makes sense to me.
It's always the pro-lifers that don't want us to be able to adopt it, which is insane.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I literally could not even answer that question. You're so pro-life. You want these children to be born. You're so against abortion. But when our community wants to go adopt and give a child a home, you're against it. Then no, at that point, you're not fucking pro-life. You're pro-birth. You want these children to be birthed and then what? Go into the system or go homeless? Like,
Do you
that's...
think, because the way I digest that's almost like, at least for the past, we're in 2021, so like the past 40 years, 35 years, that's like a conservative problem than it is more than a liberal, probably. Like
Yeah.
liberal and conservative, like they kind
Right.
of flip flop
Right.
and go
Yeah.
everywhere. But that's interesting. I mean, yeah, as far as I see it, I really do think like that's your prime audience for adoption. And then so as far as like transgender people serving in the military, I think that they're like, that's so weird because it's a mental thing, right? It's people that really believe and they feel that like
They know.
like they know, right? They know that in their biology that they're not themselves,
Right.
Or like I don't know what the justification is for it. Like, it's not me, but like the best that I can describe it as I've read is like they are not themselves.
Right.
So then, but on a practical side of things, how do you measure that? It's so hard to like. It's like because like you want to justify it for these people, and you want to like.
But where do you draw a line with justification of just being a human being and just...
Okay, so here's where I draw it. Okay, that's a very good question. So, we brought this up when Springer came on. The female that was on Rogan talking about the transgender women in high school, 17 years old. There's a big uptick in that. Remember that? I don't know how to try and find that. But so basically there was a woman that came on, and I'll do my best to find it so I can send it to both of you so you guys can listen to it.
Yeah.
But basically she wrote a book, and what was going on was this was like her writing the book and publishing was during the height of like when Caitlyn Jenner happened, right?
Yeah.
When that whole that milestone happened. And there was a group of there was a case study of girls where they were between the ages of I think like 16 and 17, possibly 18, where they were in high school and they weren't like very popular, they weren't like really with the in crowd, they had low self-esteem, you could even classify as borderline like early onset depression, like whatever it is, right? And they were like, well, how do I get more attention? How do I, get accepted by some people? And they decided to come out as transgender. And then they got all this praise because socially that was the thing to do. And it still is. But that's the thing to do. That whenever somebody comes out as transgender, you say, like, good job, awesome, we're so proud of you, that's so brave. Because again, like, and I get it, admittedly. Like, I get it because, like, you don't know if it's somebody that's looking for attention or that's kind of like feed into the wave of hysteria, or if it's genuinely somebody who is transgender and feels that.
I feel like you don't like I said, you don't make your life harder on purpose.
I agree. No, I totally agree.
You know what I mean?
But that's the point, though, is like when you, because there's people that discriminate with that 100%. And I don't think, at least, but sadly in our lifetimes, I don't think that's going away.
No, for sure.
But like more and more, there is a growing group of people, a bigger group of people. I think that's her. I can't fucking read. Yeah. God, dude, my eyes suck. Let me tell you. God, what was I saying? So there's a large group of people that are growing, and they're willing to accept you, and they're willing to say like, "Good job," and then they'll praise you on social media, and they'll praise you like wherever. So that's where people will like feed into, and it's sad because I feel like that detracts from people who actually are in that category of I am a transgender. Like, I think a perfect example, I was having this conversation about a week ago, is Ellen Page turning into Elliot Page, right? So you look like I watched her long form interview, which is borderline a fucking podcast, which I think is hilarious, with Oprah Winfrey. Did you watch that?
I didn't watch it.
Very good. You should check it out. It's very, very good. I think it's like 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's very good. And her answers, or his answers to the questions, and how he is handling this newfound life, because it's still under a year, right?
Right. No, he just came out as trans.
It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened.
So, but the way Ellen Page is handling the transition from Elliot Page, it's so fucking...
You mean to Elliot Page?
Yes? God, this is why I dropped out of college 3 times. All right? I suck at speaking. But yes, the way this person is handling the transition, it's blatantly obvious that this is what they wanted. They weren't talked into it. There wasn't a PR team trying to convince them. There wasn't money backing it.
Yeah,
Like, this is what this person wanted.
for sure.
And because Ellen Page is a successful actress, and I fucking love Juno. That's still one of my favorite.
That is an iconic movie.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite coming of age
Yeah.
movies. You still have my stocks. I still have your virginity.
No, yeah,
like, that's
no.
fucking perfect. But like,
He goes, she goes, your shorts are especially bright today. He goes, thanks, my mom uses color safe bleach.
yeah.
She goes, go Carol.
yeah, go Carol. Yeah. So like, and because Ellen Page was such a fantastic actress and garnered all these resources and money to be able to have a safe transition.
Yeah.
That was clearly like, you saw the shirtless picture, right?
No.
Could you go on Instagram real quick and look up fucking Elliot Page?
This
This
my
motherfucker has abs, bro.
my thing is like, it's just like, it's no one's business what's under your clothes.
I agree. No, I agree. But yeah, no, I agree. But I think the argument with why they can't serve in the military is because there's so much, whether it's a arbitrary belief system or maybe there is scientific data behind saying that it's a mental disorder.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily want that person behind a gun. So it's like, okay, sure. Like, let's assume that's what we're going with. 1% of our armed forces is combat arms. That's infantry, artillery, tankers,
And
all that stuff.
I don't know. You can ask me anything about the military. Christy would probably know everything more than I would about the military. I just feel like if a person is willing to fight for their country,
Oh, so I agree.
it doesn't
Well, that's
matter
what I'm saying.
what's
So if
beneath your pants.
so if I were to handle transgenders going into the military,
yeah.
I would say sure. If you are fully transitioned and you want, so yeah, that's that.
Damn, he does have
He's got fucking abs, bro, and I'm over here like,
same. Wait, how do we end this on a positive, good note? I feel like we need.
okay,
To,
here's a positive note.
I feel like we need to do a shot. I told you coming into this, we needed to do a shot. We have
Okay.
yet to do
do
a
you
shot.
want
Noah.
that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do that.
Okay.
But I feel like we need to end this on like a good, like funny note. So, did you even read my questionnaire that I sent back to your ass? That took me like 3 days to do.
You sent it back to me?
Yes. What are you talking about?
Because I checked it last night and I was like, I don't have it back. I don't think he sent it back to me.
I did. I literally
feel
sent
so
it back.
bad.
No, it's okay. Well, I was like, is he gonna bring up anything that he asked me to like talk about?
Well, so here's why. You bring up that. And so the reason why I did that is because I had a couple episodes where I thought I was all that in a bag of chips and I could handle a conversation, and I fucked up. And so I was like, hey, maybe I should know a little bit about the person before I start talking to them.
Right.
Maybe I should be
Yeah.
you know. And so yeah, okay. So let's end it with that then. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Like money's not a question. If you could pick one way to live your life, one career to have, what would that be?
Well, you asked like 3 different questions. Is it what career do I have, or do I have all the money in the world?
Well, because money's not a problem. Like all your stuff is
Okay.
paid for. You have enough
Yeah.
money to be comfortable and fucking take
I
care
think
of
I
your
feel
family
like,
and all that.
I feel like I would just be like a professional traveler
Yeah.
and like just see the entire world. I feel like I would have like one, like I would have an estate for sure.
Yeah.
And always had that to go back to, but I feel like I would just always be traveling like the world.
A city estate or like out in the wilderness, like in the
City
woods.
for sure.
The
No,
city?
I grew up on a ranch for fucking 18 years. I don't
Okay,
like that shit.
that's fair. Hey, that's fair, man.
No, yeah, I feel like I would have like a set estate and just travel the world. And when I'm ready to go home, I hop on my jet like I'm Kylie Jenner and go home.
Where would you go? Because I have an easy answer for this, but there's like 1 or 2 places you want to go in the world, where would you go?
Bora Bora,
Okay, that's beautiful.
Santorini,
Where is that?
and Greece.
Oh, is that in Greece? Okay, so
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then I've always wanted to see South Africa since I watched Do you watch Real Housewives at all?
I gotta be honest with you, man. This might blow your mind.
So
but
let
I
me
don't
tell you,
watch
my
that.
my guilty pleasure in life is reality TV. Like I can't get away from it.
You know, what's my guilty pleasure growing up?
What?
Right?
Shrek.
Well, I love Shrek. That's not guilty. Shrek is fantastic. No, there was a show. There was a show on Netflix, or not Netflix, MTV when I was in middle school called like Next, I think. Did you ever watch that?
It was like a dating show.
Yeah, it's
right?
like a dating show.
For sure.
Where,
yeah.
And I just watched all these men
Yeah.
get fucking shot down
Yeah.
left and right.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with a little bag of cheese that's like,
Did you ever watch like a double shot at love with Tila Tequila?
who is Tila Tequila?
Look up Tila Tequila right now. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, bro.
Dude.
Is she like an artist, like a musician?
No,
or-
she's like nothing, but it was like a show that I watched like
every
in
influencer
junior
ever.
high. Yeah.
I think it's Tila.
Tila Tequila.
Tila.
Whiskey is so disgusting. See, only straight men drink whiskey. I can't do this. I need like
There has to be one
I
gay
need like
guy that
I
likes
need
whiskey.
like a vodka martini. This is too like non-housewives for me.
Dude, I stopped drinking vodka so long ago.
You never watched a double shot at love with Tila Tequila?
Oh, what happened to her face?
She was bisexual, and so she dated both guys and girls on this dating show, and it was like the most drama ever.
Oh, that's all. That's all
On
fine.
MTV.
That's all fine and dandy. But what happened to her fucking face?
Oh, I don't know.
Can you click on that real
Yeah.
quick? Did she get beat the fuck in? No. On your
Yikes.
bottom left. On your bottom left. Over right there. Tila Tequila. What does that say? Attacked at a rowdy concert. Oh my god.
Like, she's been irrelevant for like 15 years. I don't know why that's even a thing.
That's. But the gathering of juggalos. No shit, she got jumped. She went to a fucking ICP
concert. Okay.
Those are dope places, man.
Yeah,
Dude, travel. That's dope.
for sure.
Yeah, I was getting to Mexico. Go see something.
I hate this place.
Dude,
It's
I want
disgusting.
to go to Sparta in Athens.
That's
honestly.
in Greece.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in Greece. I want to go to Greece. I want to see the statue of Leonidas. And then I want to just see all that cool shit, dude.
Yeah.
I grew up on 300. Like, just watching that movie blew my fucking mind. I was like, damn.
That's when I knew I was gay.
What's Jar Butler's
Yeah,
waxed
literally,
fucking abs?
I'll cheers to that. Cheers, bro. It's been a good time. Well, y'all, this is Kylie Jenner signing off.
Ooh, that's good stuff, man. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Noah.
I appreciate you.
You're a good guy, man.
This is a great fucking time.
Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
come here. It's a great fucking time,
Love you,
man. I
bro.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Christy, thank you for coming. Lovely as always. Thank you for being here. David, thank you for showing up. I appreciate
Thanks for
you.
showing up, David.
And we have a new trailer out. It's come out well after the trailer, but watch it anyway because it's dope. I worked real hard on it.
Subscribe to OnlyKings, you
Yes,
guys.
man. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Noah.